It was definitely his passion for what he was doing.
Hmm.
And I think, there was something deep down that he was gaining from this kind of obscure activity. My name is Dave Carroll. I'm the director of Bending Steel, which is a documentary about an introverted man who decides he wants to become an old-time strongman. And the conflict in the film is, when he's trying to get out there and perform in front of people, he is really up against some of his greatest fears, and that's interaction with people and judgment. And it becomes quite a problem for him and something he has to overcome.
Right. So, Dave, can you talk about how did you meet Chris the first time, and what was the process? How many weeks it takes for you to actually approach him and say, "Hey, not only I like you, I wanted to make a documentary about you," which is a huge step, right?
Sure, sure. I was doing laundry in the basement of the building that I live in, and I had my dog Gizmo with me, and we were doing laundry, minding our own business, and we heard a sound off in the distance, and my dog went racing around the corner, chasing after the noise, and Chris was there. I had seen him in the building before. We would share an elevator together. And he was the kind of guy that wouldn't really look you in the eye when you would speak to him. He was a little odd. But there he was downstairs, and I didn't really get a good look at what he was doing. But Gizmo went into his storage space, and in the storage space was a large pile of bent and twisted steel. And there was like chains hanging from the ceiling. There was like a hammer that was bent in half,
Wow.
and it was a little startling, to be quite honest, because I had no idea what it was. I guess my brain quickly associated his odd behavior and this seeming act of aggression on steel to be some kind of problem, or he was just downstairs working out his anger through metal. Anyway, so I picked up my dog and kind of just started slowly walking away, and I apologized for the intrusion. And he just, he kind of in a really creepy voice was like, "That's okay, she's just curious." And it was that creeped me out even more. And I just, I kind of just walked away, and I kind of thought about it. I thought it was really bizarre. Strongmanism never really entered the picture. I didn't really know what that was. And, so I was telling people about this guy. Like I went to it was around Christmas of 2010. So I went to like a Christmas party, and I was like telling people about this weird guy in the basement. And it just so happened at that time, a couple of us, some friends and myself, were looking for projects to work on, and I told them about Chris, and I kind of the next time I ran into Chris, I asked him what was going on, and he said he's an old time strongman, or he's training to become an old time strongman, and that in itself intrigued me, but it was really his personality and knowing that there would be some kind of struggle with him and people, and it all seemed to kind of just make sense at the time. So I just asked him if he would want us to follow him around, and he I guess unknowingly agreed.
So that was during the second conversation. Like you asked him, "What are you doing?" And then you kind of lead in to the question that, "Hey, do you mind us following you around to make a documentary?"
The idea was to do like a short film or
Mm.
something. I had, we had no idea what we were getting into, and neither did he. I mean, he was just, for as introverted as he wanted to talk to us about bending steel. That was his passion, and anyone that was interested in that, he would engage. If I told him I was going to make a film about his personal life, I don't think he would have accepted. Well, I know he wouldn't have accepted, but because we started off with the metal and the activity, that's what really, I guess, triggered his acceptance of us, him being followed around by us.
Right. So the film sort of would you say the film sort of changed him too, or was he the type of personality that would just do the same thing regardless, and it just happened that you guys have a camera following around?
I think it was like a symbiotic relationship between the filmmakers and him, and he would be the first to admit that his life would not, the trajectory of his life would not have been the same if we didn't kind of insert ourselves into his life. I mean, I was asking him questions on a regular basis about his life and his thoughts on things, and kind of dredging things up that he would normally have buried. So I think there was very much a back and forth, and that gave him a lot of time to reflect. And he's surprisingly a very when asked questions, he's a very surprisingly he's a very thoughtful and retrospective type person. I mean, he was able to kind of think about what I was asking him and really give me an honest response.
And before the encounter, before the documentary, the filming process, he was a very private man, right? And like you were saying, your eyes don't meet, and it's not like the type that he would chat with you when you guys ran into each other before.
Yeah, he was definitely. I mean, at most you would get a couple words out of him if you ran into him. And like I said, it was definitely his passion for what he was doing. And I think, there was something deep down that he was gaining from this kind of obscure activity. And he didn't really know how to articulate it. And it wasn't until we showed up and started asking him questions and followed his journey that he realized exactly what was going on and how much change he was going through, and the steps and the leaps. I mean, we saw dramatic change in him from when we started to the end of the filming. And even now, I mean, I'm good friends with him. We still live in the same building. And he's we talk frequently, and he's constantly expanding his horizons.
Right. I understand. I read that, and you said, so the filming process was like 2.5 years following him around. How many hours did you end up shooting and filming, and what was the process like, editing it down to, I think, 93 minutes or whatever minutes the film ended up being?
It was the filming itself. Principal photography was really it was less. It wasn't 2.5. The total project was, from beginning to end, was about. I mean, it's still ongoing, but it's 2.5 years. The principal photography lasted about about 10 months, and then we would have to do pickups because
continuous. The 10 months is continuous.
It was pretty rigorous. I mean, it was on a busy week. We were shooting 4 or 5 days a week, because from the minute we met him, it was like that was the time to start shooting.
Oh, okay.
He was just starting. His trainer, Chris Ryder, was just starting to talk about getting out in front of people. And so taking this activity that is a very private, personal activity that was giving him a little growth as a human being, and taking it public, that's where the conflict starts. That's where we had to immediately start shooting. And it didn't stop until, they performed at Coney Island, and then even beyond, we had to still go back and it was shot over, from winter to summer and then back to winter. So we had to get some pickup shots and to complete the story.
Right. And
to answer your question in terms of footage, I mean, it was over 200 hours of
200
footage.
hours. Yeah. So in the editing bay, you guys were like scratching your head and how to. What was the original cut like? Was it 2 hours, 3 hours? What was it like for you guys?
The original cut was basically a string of scenes in sequential order, and it was probably we had maybe about a 2 hours and 45 minutes or something like that. Obviously, there was no intention of having that length. It's just you have to figure out what works. And we had to get rid of some really great scenes that never made the film, and cut things out. But I mean, that's part of the process. And it's Chris's personal journey. So we had to really make sure every second mattered. Everything, there's a lot of subtlety and a lot of layers and a lot of complexity to his journey that we really wanted to just condense and make it as dense as possible, but also just have it come across, and you can pay attention to what you want to pay attention to when you watch the film.
Right. So, by the way, I mean, if I understand correctly, this is you and Ryan's directorial debut, right? And you guys both have a day job of being a cinematographer. And I understand, did you guys meet at the Daily Show? Is that how you guys met?
Ryan and I are both cinematographers by profession. We both work we're freelance, so we work for a variety of places. The Daily Show is one of them, and we did have different roles though. I directed and wrote, and he wrote and shot, and I also did audio. I mean, it was really like a two-man operation, pretty much. We actually did have a couple extra people in the beginning, but upon kind of realizing that it was a feature, I think people were starting to drop out because it was just too much work.
Sure. Mm-hmm. Did you guys? I'll get to the budget question later if you're willing to answer. But were you guys basically funding the effort from the beginning? Like you guys were just going ahead and like, damn the torpedo, let's do.
Yeah, I mean, it's when you're in a situation, I mean, where you're going from you have to shoot immediately, and where you think it's a short film at first, it's like, man, well, we'll just shoot this. I mean, there really wasn't much travel expense there. It was all relatively local to New York and New Jersey and Pennsylvania, so that wasn't that bad. And then it just started getting bigger, and we were traveling, and you keep buying hard drives to get your footage, and all this stuff really adds up. So to answer your question, yes, we were funding it out of our own pocket in the beginning. We did a Kickstarter for $25,000. So we did have assistance, and but I mean, even still, I mean, it was. So
it's mainly you guys' money plus the Kickstarter $25K, and that's it. Like no major production funding from grants and stuff.
Most films nowadays, like there's money backing them, and things are well thought out, and we. Other than people giving, people, our friends and people that we know in the business, that our mentors, that we would get advice from, we essentially did this, kind of in a vacuum. Mm-hmm. And it's super challenging to do that, to not have any association or
and being working in the industry, were you guys able to pull in some favors and like get some friends to do stuff for you guys for free?
Yeah, I mean, it was a tight crew. I mean, there was really only a couple times where we had to get outside help. I mean, for 90% of it was Ryan and me. But we got a fantastic editor, John Hoyt. He was recommended through a friend, and Fernando Martinez did the composition, and it was a lot of favors and people, and Hollis Smith did I mean, we had a lot of great people working on it, and industry people. So we were happy to get them and have them on board.
Now let me jump ahead. So. What was the feeling like for you and Ryan when you guys were told that you got accepted to Tribeca, and then Hot Dogs and all the great reviews that the press, Hollywood Reporter, and all the other good reviews that you guys are receiving? Talk about the first acceptance to Tribeca. That was the world premiere, right?
Yeah, we were called by Tribeca, and that was this is my directorial debut with a feature, and Ryan and our first film, first feature, and it was overwhelming to get that call, and it felt really good. I mean, we had no expectation. I mean, you got to remember, we started off as a short film with no expectation whatsoever. Um, and we are just so thankful that they enjoyed the film and they wanted us to be a part of the festival, and then hot docs followed, and we just started meeting a lot of great people in the business, in documentaries specifically, and even just a lot of people in general. And then the reviews, I mean, were fantastic. I mean, we believed in the film, we believed in Chris, and that's where a lot of it stemmed from. And a lot of the positive energy that was, well, I mean, the negative energy and the positive energy that Chris had, we fed off that, and that really kept us going through the process from just starting off all the way through production to finishing, and we just kept going with that. And then to see the Hollywood Reporter and IndieWire and all these other kind of the Wall Street Journal, that they said such great things. It's very humbling, and we're very proud of the film, and we're glad that people really get a lot out of it.
Mm-hmm. So, given the hours of footage and the original kind of 2 hours 45 minutes or whatever length, did you guys find the structure of the film, the way that you're going to tell the story, very early on, or that you guys tried different things and keep? What was the editing process like for you guys?
Right, guys. John and I, we had so many discussions. Our editor John Hoyt was actually in L.A. the whole time, so we would talk back and forth. But from the very beginning, I was always trying to, extrapolate what Chris was saying and try to pre-structure the film in my head and on paper, because it wasn't. I couldn't see it working by just kind of dumping 200 hours on an editor and going, let's try to make
right.
this.
Good luck.
It was always pre-planned, like what we were going to try to. Certain situations, obviously, it's like whatever happens, and you capture it, and then just have to be quick on your feet to react to whatever happens. If I need to ask Chris a question or something, but it was really, it was very time consuming to kind of figure everything out. Mm-hmm. And it was a lot of planning, a lot of pre-production, a lot of work before going into the day of shooting. And it's cinema verite style, so a lot of just amazing things happened in the process, and that were very just per chance and very lucky, but a good deal of it was very careful, kind of knowing what we needed to get to kind of round out the story. And a lot of stuff happens in 200 hours that's just not great. It's boring, it's not interesting, it's you're following leads that may or may not work. And it was just a matter of controlling, what we had to focus on. If all this stuff's going on, like what's the important part? What do we need to zoom in on and really address? Right. So it was that type of stuff.
Yeah. I have to ask the question, was there a moment during shooting that you decide to not film something because of Chris or whatever reason? You decide to pan away the camera or turn off the camera, or during the editing process you realize, hey, that's maybe going too far or too much, and decide not to use the footage? Was there a case? Can you talk about that?
There's definitely things that we ended up pretty much shooting everything, and there really wasn't anything that we shot that was questionable. That Chris was very open, and as documentaries are basically built on trust, especially with a very personal story, and you don't want to betray that trust. At the same time, you want to be real and honest, and I think everyone understood that. So I think everything was fair game. So there wasn't anything that we kept because it would have kind of jeopardized his character, but there's definitely things that we just felt were not important or would kind of put a thought into the audience's mind that would it just was like a red herring. We wanted to avoid like a red herring, right. Like just you don't want to throw an idea out there just to then poison the well, so to speak, in terms of this structure, and it was all story related, that stuff that we just kept out basically.
Right. So okay, let me close off by with this question, and this is someone put in a review. Don't give any spoiler away because I don't want to be hated. So this is how a reviewer described the ending: most perfect, moving documentary endings you ever see. So how do you guys structure and get to the ending? Or was it like really there's no way to end it other than the way that you ended? Don't give away anything.
Yeah.
I don't want to know.
No. Um, the end of the film is real. It happened, and you were faced with a couple different choices. It was a real situation, and we were prepared to, like I said before, you go into these days and you just know, like, well, if this happens, then we do this. If this happens, we have to do this. And, it just, whatever happened, and we were there to capture it, and that became our ending. And, it was as surprising to us as it is to the audience, and that's what makes it a beautiful moment. Mm-hmm. I can't really say too much more.
No.
I know that's kind of vague, but it's a good end for the film.
Judging by what the reviewer said, it sounds great. So I have to ask, tag on an additional question. During the various Q&As that you have attended with the film, what were one or two of the best questions that people have asked you, and you thought, wow, this guy or girl really have a good question. I want to steal it, and you try answering it here.
Yeah, well, I think it's more of the response that people get from Chris, really, rather than a question. It's really fulfilling to kind of, get someone's reaction to the film, and to see, like, people really, really deeply connecting to Chris's story. The film is called Bending Steel, but it's not really about bending steel. It's about one man overcoming things in life that a lot of people can relate to. And it's something that, is inspirational, and people are always looking to strive for more in life. And sometimes you can't help but feel that, things have passed you by and you've missed opportunities. And, I think the film kind of really holds a lot of hope for people. And the responses that you get from people that reflect that are just overwhelming. People come up to you with, like, red eyes and with tears on their cheeks, and they're saying, that they've been inspired to do something in their life that they always put aside or didn't think about that much, or they always wanted to do but couldn't do it. And to hear that kind of stuff is just very fulfilling and satisfying, to know that, Chris's story just connects with people, and it's a universal message. And I think that's what makes it so great. So, that's not exactly that wasn't exactly your question.
No, but yeah, close enough.
But it's really all about that connection. The process of making the film was inspirational, and like I said, it really carried us through the drudgery of making a feature film.
Yeah, it's not the fact or here and there that they want to know. It's the emotional response the audience give to you and to Chris, to Ryan, after they watch it. It's a visceral. It's a response.
Yeah, it's
not
general,
factual. Yeah.
People usually have questions, and it's about Chris's personal life, which is just because people are curious. We didn't have time to explore everything, but but it's really that reaction that people have on an emotional level and on a personal level. That really affects us the most and makes the whole thing worthwhile.
Yeah, I love the trailer, and I look forward to watching the film, Dave.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I wish I was going to be up there to meet you personally, but I'm glad it's at Calgary. We're super excited about that. Canadian audiences tend to be the best audiences. Let's not tell other people about that. You guys are pretty good. and we're just happy to be up there. So,
All right. Thanks a lot, Dave.
you're welcome. Thank you. I appreciate it.